Hello and welcome to Crititas Math. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at this question that incorporates functions and specifically linear functions and Pythagoras. So this is a way that you can see both of these concepts built in together into kind of a larger, more complex question. So here you have Mr. Carter would like to put a fence around his land, which is in the shape of a right trapezoid, as shown on the right. So we've got this fence situation. The graph below associates to the length of the fence in meters the cost in dollars. So here we've got our graph. So first thing to do is kind of unpack what's happening. So we have this partial variation linear function. It starts at 200, and as we increase in length of fence, we go up in cost. So this means that we have maybe a $200 installation service, something of the sort, and then we're being charged a certain amount of money per meter of fence. And the only information we are being told is that if you buy a fence with a length of 50, then you're going to pay $600 overall. So we need the rule for this fence company. For the cost of my fence, so the total amount of money that I'm going to spend on this fence, I need to figure out the slope times the length of my fence plus the initial value. So in this problem, our slope or our rate of change would be the cost per meter of fence. And our initial value in this case would be the installation fee. So it's important to just understand exactly what's happening so that you can kind of figure out where you need to go. So here, if we figure out the total amount of money that we're spending, we need to know the cost per meter of fence, and we need to know the installation fee. If we want to know how much money we're spending on this particular fence, we also need to know the length of the fence. So that's going to be another thing in here, length of fence. So these are all things that we need to find. We need to find essentially all of these. The total money you can only find once you have this rule, since all of this is how you're going to calculate it. So our first step, and you can do this in a couple of different orders, it doesn't really matter how you find each individual piece of these, but we'll just go with, from left to right type of thing. So the first thing we're going to find is the cost of fence, the cost per meter for the fence. And since that is represented by A, we're looking for the slope of the line. So we need to find what is the slope here. We have 1 point. We also have another point. It's right over here. It's way too big. Right over here. So we know that this is 200 on the y-axis, and it's at 0 on the x-axis. So this point right here is 0, 200. So there are two ways to do this. You can use your a equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Use your two coordinates that you have. Label your coordinates. Plug in to the formula. So we get 600 minus 200, 50 minus 0, 400 over 50 equals 8. You can do it like that, or you can also, since you have a graph, just look at change in y over change in x. Over here, we're looking at change in y, so what is the vertical change? You go from 200, 1, 2, 3, 4 to 600. So your change in y is 400, positive 400 because you went up. And then your change in x, that would be going from this 0 over to this 50. So horizontally, you went to the right by 50, which is positive, equals 8. Both methods are correct. It does not matter which one of these you use, as long as you say you're solving for the cost per meter of the fence, you're looking for the slope, and you put in whichever slope formula you're using. The way that you decide if you want to use this one or you want to use this one, completely up to you. It doesn't matter. So for our rule so far, y equals ax plus b, we have found our a. Now we need to find our b, the installation fee. And so that's our initial value. So 2 initial value. This is something that you can read right off the graph. The line crosses the y-axis at 200, which means b equals 200, and you pulled that off of the graph. And now we have our b value. So the rule is done. You have the rule. Now we need to know, how much fence are we buying in order to fence in Mr. Carter's entire yard? Well, when we look at this, there is a side here that's missing. And this is why this is a Pythagoras question as well, because you know that this is a right trapezoid, and there is a way to break this up into a rectangle and a triangle so that you can find that missing side. So what I like to do to make sure that I'm creating the right triangle is I like to highlight the side that's missing. You want to make sure that the side that you're missing is included in the right angle triangle that you create. Otherwise, you can't really use Pythagoras with it. So here I've highlighted this, and now I need to create a right angle. The only way that I can create a right angle with this triangle is if I make a parallel line to this side. So if I add in a line right here, and it's parallel, so you can draw little arrows to show that that's parallel, then you've created a rectangle and a right angle triangle, because now you know that this is right angle, and if that's right angle, then this is right angle. Now you need to fill in what you know about this triangle, since this is the triangle you're using. Over here, since this is a rectangle, this side will be of the same length, so 16. And again, because this is a rectangle, this side here will be of the same length, so that will be 12. And since you know that this entire side is 24, then 24 minus this 12 will give you the remaining side here. So you have that this side is 12, this side is 16, and you're looking for this side. Now we have to use Pythagoras. So I'm going to go over here. So we're finding missing side. We have this triangle, 16, 12. And put in our formula for Pythagoras, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And our step one is always to label our triangle. So we look at our right angle, look over to the other side from the right angle, label that side C. The other two sides, label them however you want. It doesn't matter. Now we plug in what we know into our formula here. So 16 squared plus 12 squared equals c squared. And what do we get? 16 squared plus 12 squared, that gives us 400. To undo the square on the c, we need to square root the 400. 20 equals c. Now we have this missing side here. So we found the missing side. Now we can find total length of fence. And the total length of this fence is all the sides added up, the perimeter. So perimeter of the fence is going to be 20 plus 12 plus 16 plus 24. I'll just move this step up here so there's some more space. Plus 12 plus 16 plus 24, we get 72. So this is the length of our fence in total. That's how much fence we need to buy. And this is what needs to get plugged in to our rule that we found. So step 5 is find the cost. Y equals 8x plus 200. Now we know that x is 72 for Mr. Carter's fence. I have 76 plus 200. We get $776. And that's how much it would cost to put a fence around the land. So earlier I said that it doesn't matter in which order you did this. So what doesn't matter is step 1, step 2, step 3. Right, so you could have started with finding the missing side, and then you could have found the slope and then found the initial value and then put the equation together. These 3 steps really doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that you do all these 3 before you do step 4 and 5. Okay, that is it. So that's how you do a complex functions Pythagoras question. All questions are a little different. The main thing that's important is understanding what you need to do, figure out what the question's asking, what information you have, and going from there. Okay, I will see you in the next video.